Hey guys, it's Daniel. The following is a previously unreleased clip from my interview with composer Howard Blake.
So Howard, how did you end up collaborating musically with Queen?
Well, this is a very, very touchy story, and you don't have to. Everybody gets very nervous about this story, especially Queen. I'll tell you the story, but you can treat it how you want to treat it. But the story, seen from my end, happened like this. I got a call one day from the leading film music recording studios from John Richards, who was our top engineer. He's now in Hollywood, has been there for a long time now. But John rang and he said, "Are you busy at the moment?" I said, "Not particularly, no." And he said, I've got a lot of people in the box here, and we've got a real problem." I said, "What sort of a problem?" Well, he said, I've got the group Queen, and they were supposed to have written the music for a very expensive film called Flash Gordon. It's costing about £50 million, which in those days, this would be 1981. That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I've got Dino De Laurentiis, the great film producer. He's here, and I've got the head of, I think it was Paramount or MGM. We've got the head of studios here. I said, you're having one hell of an afternoon there. Well, he said, "We'd like you to come over." I said, "What for?" So he said, "Well, you'll find out." So anyway, I get there, and they're all standing around, and in the studio they've got the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra all sitting there doing nothing. So Dino, he says to me, he says, this film is costing me £50 million. I said, "So?" He said, "We have no music. No music has been written." Oh. I said, "Well, why is that?" They said, "Well, we asked Queen. They said they would write it. They would write the music. So we've hired the Royal Philharmonic for 2 weeks, which is a very expensive thing to do. They're sitting there, but there's no music." I said, "Well, that's absurd. I mean, there must be some." So it turned out what happened was that Queen had an assistant who used to fix up recording sessions and do a little bit of arranging on the side for them, and he said he could do it. In fact, he couldn't write at all, and certainly not a full orchestral score. And they recorded. He'd managed to sort of busk about a minute and a half of music by telling people what he wanted them to play and having them make it up on the spot. So, and they'd managed to make about a minute and a half music like that. And they said, "But I mean, it didn't fit and it wasn't any good." So they said, John here tells me, he said, "We have to have." So Dino said to me, this was a Thursday afternoon, about 3:00. Dino says to me, he said, "Please, could you write another complete score by Monday?" I said, if I had Tchaikovsky and Beethoven and Gershwin here, and we all worked, we couldn't write it by Monday. I said, this is like, it was a 2-hour long film, and it needed music all the way through. So anyway, John said, I know how I could do it, but you'll have to give him the time. So I said, okay. He said, "How long?" Well, I said, I would say really 4 weeks at minimum. To starting from scratch to write a completely new score. So And then Dino says, but, you know, you have no idea. The interest on my £50 million, I can't afford it. I said, well, that's your problem. It's not my problem. Anyway, cut a long story short, I agreed to do it. And I had originally 3 weeks. They gave me 3 weeks. In fact, by the time they hadn't even measured they hadn't got a sound editor in to measure all of the cues, which God knows what they've been doing. Yeah. So I said, well, the first thing, you've got to get somebody, a whole team, get the whole thing measured fast. And then Dino says to me, what do we do with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra? I said, you paid them off. Oh my God, they have Roy and I said, don't be so silly, you know. So anyway, we paid off the orchestra, and I set to work on it. And then I of course all of the group were there. Freddie Mercury and Brian May, everybody was there. So you know, and Brian May said to me, he said, I've got one or two ideas you might be able to drop in. And Freddie Mercury said, I've got a tune I'd like you to hear. And I said, okay. I said, you tell me, and I'll make notes of it, and I'll see what I can do to put everything into it. You know, I'll see what I can do. So I went home and started working on it. In fact, it was more than a week before I could really start. So that brought it about less than 2 weeks. And then, you know, one thing and another, and then, you know, that the sound editor said he was going on holiday, and I said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that to me. Come back. So that wasted a couple of days again, but getting him back off holiday. The whole. I've never ever been on such a catastrophe of a major movie in my whole life. It's unbelievable. But I did manage. I was at that time at a house by the Thames, and in a place called Mortlake, and I wrote the whole score. Finally, pretty well, it was about 10 days of actually writing, like, flat out, and I scored it for, it was a big orchestra, 70-piece orchestra. I fully scored. And here it is. And I've got it here. This actually, I should say, this is the score of Flash Gordon, and this is the original manuscript.
Would it be possible just to show the camera for a second?
This is the handwritten manuscript score of Flash Gordon. That would be a sketch. That's one page. It's a sketch score of one page.
That's perfect.
And that would be that you see. It gives you here 2 flutes, 2 oboes, clarinets, horns, trumpets, trombones, piano, harp, percussion, violins, cello, so on. And in here we had a very busy part for synthesizer, played brilliantly by Brian Gascoigne. That was a very big part of it. And so that is this huge score that was written, you know.
And you wrote that in a few weeks?
10 days.
Wow.
Complete insanity. Anyway, I put that back. In fact, if I tell you what, I can remember clearly, Philip, we were starting on it. We brought a big orchestra back, the National Philharmonic, and I was going to conduct it on the Monday. And I can remember finishing it on the Sunday night before. And I felt absolutely... I hadn't actually slept for the last 4 days, which is a very dangerous thing to do. It's just, I had to finish, and I'm writing faster and faster and faster. And I think I've got to finish it. I finished it on at like 5 o'clock a.m. on the Sunday. And I remember, and I put the score in the car ready, and I thought, I'll go for a walk. And I went for a walk along the Thames. It was a beautiful sunny day, I remember. And I felt fine. I thought, there's strange that I could have not slept for 4 days, and I feel so. I was actually high as a kite, actually, on writing music. Anyway, I went up to the studios, and there was Dino sitting waiting to hear, and they were all there. And I went, okay, and we went into cue number 1, and the Queen were all there, and they went, wow. So that was pretty exciting, and I conducted for 2 sessions a day for 3 days, 6 sessions of 3 hours, so 18 hours recording, and we'd done it. And I went home on the Wednesday evening, and I felt fine. However, I didn't wake up. I didn't wake up, and my wife had left with the children, like, because it was like a nightmare, all like motorbikes arriving and phones going and things. And she came back on Saturday morning, and I was in bed, and she tried to wake me up. She couldn't wake me up. And eventually she said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I live here." And she said, "You're supposed to be... You're going to Paris. You were going to go to Paris on Thursday." I said, "Yes, that's tomorrow." "No," she said, "it's now Saturday." I had actually slept Wednesday, Thursday, Friday through to the middle of Saturday, and they couldn't anyway. And she couldn't wake me up, and they got a doctor in who shot me with something to wake me up.
No way.
And he said, "It's very good for you. You did ring," because he said it's extremely dangerous to go without sleep for 4 days. And he said, "I think if you hadn't rung me, you would never have woken up."
Really?
Yeah.
My goodness. Wow.
Because, you lose the oxygen to the brain, and your brain gives up. And I believe that's what Mozart died of, overwork. Yeah, because he was forced in the same situation by Salieri, who made him work. You can't stop, you've got to finish this requiem. And he dropped dead. So I didn't drop down. I'm made of sterner stuff.
Good for you, man. That is awesome.
But that's quite a story, isn't it?
That is. So Flash Gordon and Queen couldn't kill you. That's the important part of the story.
Yeah, I live to fight another day.
That is amazing. So what were the guys from Queen like? Were they fun to work with? Were they difficult to work with? How was that experience?
They were fine. I got on very well with Freddie, and Freddie. This tune he wrote a tune, and he said, "I'd like to sing this tune for the trip, the voyage to Arborea." They go to the planet Arborea, if you know the film. And he said, "I've written a tune," and so I said, "How could I get that into the film?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I don't write music." I said, "Well, can you sing it?" "Yeah," he said, "I do sing." "Yes, I know you sing." Everybody knows you sing. So I'll sing it to me. So he, in this little funny little high falsetto voice, he said, "Oh, oh, oh." People don't seem to have credited Freddie with quite this. They know him obviously as the fantastic performer, but he was very musical, and he did play. He actually played the synthesizer on a bit along with my friend Brian Gascon. So he played synthesizer, and he also could play piano. So and he's very very musical actually, and did have a composing talent quite obviously.
What was Freddie like from your experience as an individual, as a person outside of music?
Well, I only really knew him. That's the only time I ever saw him, was really preparing for the recording, and through those 3 days recording. And I mean, I found he was very quiet and very reserved, which you wouldn't think when you see him perform, but you wouldn't imagine he was. Yes, and he was quite shy. And he said, could I speak to you? Yes, I said, of course you could speak to me.
So, how do you feel about the end result of the composition you wrote?
Shall I play it to you on the piano?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to hear that. Please.
And this, I'll play, and it's this was the tune, and in fact, Freddie had written the opening. It was a beautiful tune, and he wrote about 10 bars of it, and I wrote another 12 bars of it. So it was a joint Freddie Mercury, Howard Blake tune, and it went like this.
That is awesome.
Isn't it?
That's so cool.
So,
That could easily been a Queen song. That is an awesome piece.
yeah, and I just actually, it's funny enough, Alan here is a great violinist, and I just rearranged that to play on violin and piano a few weeks ago. So I thought, and that's why I got the music here.
So, do you have any stories with Brian May?
I got on very well with Brian May. Brian May is really like the leader of the group. He comes over that way, and he is, in fact. And I tell you another funny story about Brian May was after we'd done the whole film, and it went into long periods of time being dubbed in editing studios and putting it into shape and so on. And finally, Brian May rang me one day, and he said, "I've got the final sort of decided on track, and I've got it all on a cassette. We've put it all together, and we'd like you to check it's all okay." So, okay, so I said fine. So it so happened he lived a few doors away from me in Mortlake, just round the corner, in fact. So I said, well, I'll come over. He said, well, actually, I would invite you over to the house, but my stereo isn't working. Oh, I said, well, he said, what about, have you got a cassette? Well, I said, funny, I haven't got any stereo in this house because the children are here. I think the only thing is, I think my small boy of 1 or 2 years old, my 2-year-old boy, has got a little Mickey Mouse set under his bed. I think that's the only piece of audio equipment I've got. And he said, well, listen to it on that. And I said, are you sure? Anyway, so Brian May came over, and we found this little Mickey Mouse cassette. It worked all right, but it only got about 1 foot of electric lead. So we had to lie under the bed and listen and put our ears to this, and we played the entire score of Flash Gordon like that on this Mickey Mouse machine.
Oh, wait,
That's amazing. That should have been in the movie, the Bohemian Rhapsody movie.
I know, it's like, and I said, this is absurd on a £50 million movie that we're listening to the final result on a Mickey Mouse machine.
that is never going to think I've ever heard. That is actually
Where the real question is, do you know the whereabouts of the Mickey Mouse machine?
I should think it's long since vanished. I could find out.
That should be in a museum somewhere.
It should be yes, it should be a museum. So anyway, I got on well with Queen, and overall, I mean, the sessions were fun, and it sounded terrific. But I sort of lost track of it now. In fact, I got involved with. They did is what's it called? Is Flash Gordon still alive? No.
Life After Flash.
Oh, Life After Flash. My friend Lisa Downs, she put together. She's just put together the 40th anniversary celebrations for Flash Gordon. That's what this poster is about, which I just took down. Yes, and. So that was quite exciting when that the last, I guess it's the 30th. When we all got together. I think it was the 30th. It must have been the 30th anniversary 10 years ago. It would have been, wouldn't it? And at that time we got together with Sam Jones came over, and I got and the whole cast pretty well were there, and we had this celebration of Flash Gordon in BAFTA, British Academy of Films, in London, and I went to that, and that was a very exciting event, and it was rather amazing that it was absolutely packed out, BAFTA, and the lines, the dialogue lines, the whole audience knew all of the dialogue by heart.
That's amazing.
And that's a famous scene when Sam Jones and Prince Barin they're hanging over this pool full of crocodiles, balanced in space with all these guns aimed at them, and there's no possibility of escape. And there's a drop into infinity, and Prince. And Flash Gordon turns to Prince Barin, and the whole audience went. They went. Have you heard about this man? Oh, who's the great escape artist?
Houdini.
Have you heard of this man Houdini? And the whole audience said that. I go, that's amazing. They knew it better than me, anyway.
That is awesome.
That's so cool. I can't get over that Mickey Mouse story. I think that's absolutely hilarious.
I'll see if I can find the actual machine.
It is so funny.
Yeah.